Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and humans of all ages, and welcome to the Hobbit and Giant Guidebook to Nowhere. Today we are talking about books that we would love to see as a film, and I'm joined by my regular host, the Hobbit.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, how are we doing today?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. So you've got a good book picked out today for us.
Yes, indeed. I have picked out The Greatest Night by Thomas Asbridge.
As you can see on the stream. And I have picked out The Edge Chronicles, which is not one book, but many books. But I feel like you could probably accumulate two books a film. So you could get like 12 films, something like that out of it, I'm sure. So it's not too bad. But yes, so what sparked us to do this then was, in our last stream, it was really enjoyable talking about books, like the best and worst books sort of thing. And then of course there are so many books out there which haven't been turned into a film and may never get a chance. Because there's books that we've read as children that are absolutely incredible. Like honestly, absolutely incredible to read. It doesn't just talk to you as a kid. It's actually talking to you as a person. And they most likely never will get put into a movie sort of thing. Or they do, and it's absolutely terrible.
Indeed, as we previously have discussed.
If you are interested, check out the previous podcast on books, and you'll see a little gripe with books there. But anyway, I digress. So we've picked out a couple of books today. We're going to talk about the premise of the books, and then we'll talk about a few of the subjects, how we feel that they would go over and be good in films, and maybe there's some aspects that don't work, but we'll see how it goes. So we'll start with the Hobbit's pick, which is The Greatest Night. So tell me a bit about it, because I've not read it. I don't know what it's about.
Well, I am actually in the process of reading it myself.
Yeah.
It is not a fantasy novel or indeed a particular story.
Yeah.
It is simply a book based on the life of William Marshall.
Okay.
William Marshall lived in the 12th, 11th century, and he was the son of, at the time, was an Anglo-Saxon warlord.
Yeah.
Who helped and came into power through the Norman conquest.
Okay.
Now, William Marshall was traded as security to King Stefan that his father would behave himself. His father didn't, and William Marshall was nearly killed at 5 years old. But apparently, being the young kid he was, and being so enthusiastic about everything, wanting to hold spears and wanting to learn all about the catapults, saved him. Because King Stefan liked him so much that he couldn't face having to do what he did. He would have had to do.
So
he didn't kill Marshall, and he lived.
So he showed mercy then?
Yeah, he lived. And William Marshall lived to serve at the side of Henry II.
Wow.
At the side of what would have been Henry III if he'd lived long enough.
Yeah, because he died.
At the side of Richard the Lionheart and King John himself.
Wow.
And he was linked with one of the most famous medieval women, and this is Eleanor of Aquitaine.
Yeah.
And she was wife to Henry II.
Okay.
And he began his career with the nobility in her service before moving on to work with her son.
Just pausing there for a second. Could you put some headphones on for us? There's a bit of feedback coming through.
Of course. 1 second.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you very much. I could just hear it in the background just a little bit, because whenever I speak, I just hear myself like, ooh, there's an echo in here. It's not a big room. I'll tell you that.
I have to find them. Of course, they just appear when you need them.
Of course I do. It's what happens to the things that you want to have, you know. Oh yes, I just need this battery power supply. Oh, it's gone. Oops. Yeah, I'll be fine. It'll be fine. Okay.
Is this the issue resolved?
Well, I think so. I can't hear myself speaking anymore. So, yep. So it seems like we're all good.
Yay!
Yay! Woo! Okay, so he was involved with one of the most famous women in medieval history.
He worked at the side of her. Yes, he began his career working with nobility with them. Before that, before Eleanor of Aquitaine, he simply worked with tournaments.
Okay.
And he trained. Now, the system to become a knight in the medieval ages was highly specialized. You would work from about 6 as a page, then go on to be a squire at around 11 to 16 years of age.
Yeah.
And later on, when you were 18, it was sort of expected around that age, you'd be knighted and you'd be able to work as your own and a knight.
Wow.
After a certain amount of time of being a squire, or if you performed a great act in war. Because when you're a squire, you'd be following a knight around and learning how they work. While as you're a page, you're learning how to do the basics in training and how to set up armor and all the things you need to know.
So if you were unlucky enough, could you end up staying as a page or a squire for your whole life?
Not really. You'd have to be a very, very bad knight, and you'd only end up as a squire for the rest of your life if you were really bad.
just running away every day. No, I'm out. Yeah. I don't want to deal with this war. Bye.
Because eventually, after enough time, you would have seen enough and gained enough experience that you would have been knighted.
Yeah.
Because even if you weren't a good fighter in particularly, you would have seen enough of tactics that you could give advice.
Yes. So is this a factual story, or is this based in mythology as well as facts?
This is a factual story. It's based on the story written about William Marshall himself.
Okay.
His own book, The Life of William Marshall. This book was actually nearly lost in a great library that used to belong to, give me 1 second, a man named... Sir Thomas Phillips.
Sir Thomas.
And he had an extensive collection, and they only discovered this medieval manuscript when they went through it.
Wow.
And before that, they didn't know much about William Marshall, only vague rumors and stipulations. Well, with this, they were able to... So they found the manuscript telling the story of William Marshall's life in the library of Sir Thomas Phillips.
Okay.
He had hoarded a lot of manuscripts, but they managed to find William Marshall's. Before that, they had, of course, heard of him in many notes and letters. He signed the Magna Carta, for one, which has affected many constitutions and human rights around the world.
Of course.
Especially the American Constitution.
Yeah. It was it the first signed document from a king to the peasants, or is that not correct?
The Magna Carta basically is a Bill of Rights stating that a king basically cannot misuse his power, and if he does, then they can basically take charge themselves and introduce another king. Now, of course, this had happened before, but this made it legal to do so, and you wouldn't have to be worried about picking the wrong side afterwards, and you wouldn't be allowed to be punished if you had and unfortunately picked the losing side. Now, of course, King John eventually refuted the Magna Carta
and broke his promise.
Yes, indeed. And all this, actually, bits and elements of it are represented in the Russell Crowe Robin Hood, which is absolutely fabulous.
Yes,
but it's not particularly about William Marshall.
No, it wouldn't have much of a stain on William Marshall at the time, sort of thing. So
you've glimpsed him. And he's awesome.
So William Marshall was working for King John at the time, when the Magna Carta was written and signed into effect, into law. Interesting. So
that's just some of the things.
So he's had a very big impact on medieval England and Europe. Or would it be more?
Well, he was involved in many events that did have a large impact on medieval England and Western Europe. He also went on crusade. Now, he went at a moment where Saladin had just signed a 12-month truce in order that he wouldn't be fighting a war on both sides, so he didn't see much action. Later on, of course, everybody knows Richard the Lionheart did go out on crusade, and he left. John managed to weasel his way into power by actually what he did is he went over to the King of France and he signed away all of his brother's realms to the King of France and said, you take them, I'll rule them, and you can be king. He was that thirsty for power. Now, of course, in perspective, Richard the Lionheart was a brutal war leader.
Yeah.
He was not liked at all.
Yeah.
He was very savage, and he wasn't the idealized version we hear of today. You know, Richard the Lionheart, perfect king. He's amazing. No, not so much. But nobody's perfect, and the whole family. Oh my God! If you look into it, it's pretty crazy. And it all started. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say. Well, it's very interesting that because it's in terms of the victor, because King James the Lionheart. Well, no, the Lionheart. I can't remember.
Richard the Lionheart. Yes.
Thank you. I should know that. King Richard the Lionheart was the victor, so he portrayed himself as a better person.
Yeah, history is always written by the winners, and of course they're going to propaganda themselves as being good. Of course they tend to paint him very well because John, who came after him, is extremely unliked. Nobody likes John the First, especially Disney.
Oh, of course not.
Remember back to the Disney version of Robin
Robin
Hood.
Hoods. Yeah, God. Oh God, it's so bad. Okay, so we've got the premise now. We've got a knight. He's going around doing knight things for kings. He's saving damsels. He's doing all this sort of stuff.
Well, no damsel saving in particular, but yes, it's very good. And he actually marries the descendant of Strongbow and Aoife. And Strongbow and Aoife were married after Strongbow was sent over by Henry II to help Dermot what's his name? Oh dear, why can't I remember the guy's name? Dermot MacMurrough, who was King of Leinster here in Ireland, to keep control of his lands because he wasn't doing a very good job of that himself. Yeah. Of course, Strongbow comes in now. It's a big debate whether he was invited or they invited themselves over the Normans. But Strongbow was actually Welsh, and the people he brought in with him were Welsh. So we should slightly be a bit more angry at the Welsh and Scottish here in Ireland than we should be at the English.
Yeah.
But those are just the first invaders, and eventually they started taking over more land here in Ireland until all of Ireland is under British rule until in 1922 when we became a free nation.
Because it hasn't been that long since Ireland's become a free nation, really, has it?
No, not at all. We're still very young. Yeah. And anyway, back to William Marshall. Yeah. He married the daughter of Strongbow and Aoife, and this lady was pretty much a millionaire heiress in her own right.
I could see that. Yeah, owning the whole of Ireland would do that.
She had vast tracts of land, not just in Ireland, but in Wales and parts of England as well. So when Richard the Lionheart gave her to him, essentially, this is of course the Middle Ages, he basically made William Marshall a millionaire overnight.
But I'm guessing he would have been well off at the time anyway, because at that time he would have been well acclaimed, he would have been well known about. Because I'm guessing this is going on in his life a bit. Cause
he was in his 40s at this time, but before that he would have had to earn being known about. He was well reputed as a good man in jousts and tourneys. Yeah. He actually jousted against Richard the Lionheart and could have killed him, but killed his horse instead. Very tense moment in the battle. Because, of course, all these wars are being fought between the family because the father of John and Richard and Henry, who would have been king if he hadn't died quite young, were because their father, Henry II, would not give them real power. He never could. He just would not give it to them. So they went to seek it themselves.
Ah, I see. Interesting. Okay. Is there anything else we want to go on before we start doing the questions then?
Just to let you know, the lady who was called Isabella de Clare, if I'm right, I'm probably wrong, but she was 16 when they married. And apparently they had a nice marriage. They were happily married for all the time.
That's
and they had
nice
about 16 children together as well.
Wait, 16?
Yes. But that wasn't too uncommon in the Middle Ages. I mean, about a fifth more of children didn't make it past the age of 10 or survive infancy. You know, we don't have the medical things we have today, so I know it sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. But not all of them, unfortunately, would survive to adulthood. Averages say that at least one had to have died,
Wow.
which is very sad, but
Yeah.
true.
Well, it's interesting as well because I was looking at the world maps today. Not the world map. The what's it called? It's basically the map which come on, brain works. Come on, brain. So here we go. So it's the population map which shows you. Which shows you the world, and just like it was 0.05% population growth for about 8,000 BC to 1 AD. The population went from 5 million to 200 million.
Yeah.
And then after that, it stuck around 0.05% per year growth up until about the 1800s, where it just skyrocketed, sort of thing. So of course it makes sense that there's such a low population rate at that time.
Well, yeah, the Middle Ages would have been very much a dispersed but quite dense rural population.
Yeah.
And cities are really just starting to come into their own now.
Yeah.
I mean, you have London, and London was actually one of the biggest international cities at the time, and it was just starting to form as the capital. Back then.
And it's still going to be small because there's not that many. Because the thing is, you think about wars back then, 5,000 troops, that 10,000 troops, that's the king's army, and that's the size that they worked with. And like nowadays, you're talking hundreds of thousands, millions.
Yeah.
But okay, so that's the preface. That is the dark. No.
Little intro.
That's the initial intro of your story, The Greatest Night. So I'll explain a bit about my story, so it's a bit of back and forth, and then we'll get into the questions of what makes it a good film and why would we want to watch it? Because you can read a book and you can see it in your head, you can see how it all plays out, but there's something different about it being on film and a different way of viewing it, and seeing how someone puts up there for you and what their takeaway is from it, sort of thing. So
yeah.
So mine's The Edge Chronicles. Now, if you've not read this, it was published in 1998, and it's finished technically. I think the last book was in 2017, but there are a set of 3. Is it trilogies or is it quad? I don't know how to check this up. So it is, yeah. So it's trilogies. So there's trilogies. There's 4 trilogies and standalone books, basically, sort of thing. So you start off with the Quint trilogy, and you get the Twig trilogy, the Rock trilogy, and the K trilogy, and they all take different aspects of the story. So I believe at the start, the one that starts the whole series off is the Twig trilogy, which is a young boy called Twig gets lost in the forest, befriends a bear, I believe, but they're not called a bear.
I think they're called. Was it something like Wookabear or something?
Might be a Wookabear.
Another thing, what is it? Bandabear.
Bandabear, yes, it's a Bandabear. There we go. Yeah, Bandabear, other friends, and there's so much going on. Yeah. So I'm just reading a few things from the Wikipedia because it's been so long since I read it. But I've got like the whole film playing in my head, sort of thing. It's just remembering the names because they're very particular names. So, someone's upon a slaughterer who is being attacked by a hoover worm. Twig kills the hoover worm, and the grateful slaughterer invites him to spend the night in the village. However, the slaughterer has been poisoned by the hoover worm and is swelling up. Nonetheless, Twig gets to the slaughterer's village, and the slaughterers find the antidote to their ill brother. So, there's lots of little details. There's pictures being done, because it's done by 2 writers, by 2 people. It's Paul Stewart and Chris Riddle.
Oh, I love Chris Riddle. His illustrations are just spectacular.
They are incredible. He's done a lot of illustrations, not just these trilogies, but he's done loads of other books. Like his art is very particular, and you can see it on most of the front covers here on the backdrop. They'll all be done by him, and it's such particular artwork, and it's every time you see it, like
It's the only. Being honest, it's the only artwork I felt when it comes to a book that adds to the story rather than takes from it.
Yeah, well, I feel like the characters that he draws are the characters that I could see if they weren't drawn. So it's
Exactly,
just
yeah.
as good as like reading in your head and kind of going, oh yeah, the story's like this, the character's like this, and he draws them out going, yep, that's exactly in line with
Yeah,
what I was
that's
thinking.
it.
I love it. And there's so much to it as well, because you've got the map of the Edge world, because it's the Edge Chronicles, it's the edge
Oh,
of the
yeah.
world, and it's just there's so much detail in there to play with, and there's like you've got Skyrock City in the first series that ends up getting rock sickness or something.
Oh, it's, yeah. So many incredible scenes and settings.
Oh, there are. And Twig becoming the captain and the crew and losing some of
Yeah.
the crew dying off, more crew being brought in, more crew dying off. But it's just how he deals with it, because he's a young man when he joins the pirate crew, and I believe they go through the mist, they get split up, the ship destroyed, and they go around trying to find each other again, sort of thing. And he meets the girl who doesn't age. She's the engineer. You've got the vice captain, which I think sabotaged something at some point. What I feel like.
Yeah, Sneed, isn't he?
Sneed.
Smeed. Yeah, you can't trust a Smeed, can you?
Can't trust a Smeed. No. Oh God. What else have we got? Oh yes, and the Blood Oak sap. Do you remember the one of the maturing girls ceremony?
Oh yeah, that she was a Trog. She was the one who controlled the Flight Stone.
Yes, and the girl attempts to kill Twig as she sees all of the species as vermin. However, a lone Trog male saves Twig, much to his surprise, and directs him to the exit. And then this is where Twig meets some sky pirates, whose ship has crashed due to a flight rock which powers the ship falling out the sky when it's struck by lightning. Ooh. And then Twig finds Quintus Vergens. I can't say the names because I can say it in my head. I can't say them out loud. It's just the tongue just doesn't twist and turn the right way.
By the way, for people listening, spoiler alerts.
Yes, spoiler alert. It is his true father. And he learns long last who he is. Twig's horrors, though, the next morning he wakens in a deserted forest clearing. The sky pirates have jumped ship and abandoned him. Again, momentarily distraught, Twig sees the pirates' fire float upwards and catch onto a tree which sets half the forest alight. Twig runs to it right down the Edgelands, where he meets the Golemozer face to face.
Gluminizer, I think, is it? Or Golem?
Glomglozer.
Glomglozer. Yeah, nasty character.
That the entire set of misadventures was a cruel game devised by him. He tells Twig that he, the Glomglozer, was all various creatures which had saved him throughout the journey. Ooh. The slaughterer who had mocked Twig was a Glomglozer in disguise, as was the Trog male and the goblin at the edge of the mire was also a Glomglozer in goblin form. The demon tells Twig that he only wanted to lure Twig to him so he could throw him over the edge. The Glomglozer does just this, although the Catabird rescues Twig from oblivion and throws him onto the deck of the Quintus Vergink's ship. Finally reunited with his true father, who apologizes for leaving him and promises to always protect his son.
I know, I mean, yay, Daddy accepted us again after abandoning us twice. We're so happy.
After getting rid of us twice. This is good. And they set off sail for Undertown, the central city of the Edge. And that's the end of the first book. And then it ends up with that being ruined. I believe the captain dies by the vice captain's hands. They get launched into the Edge, and they have to go through the forest. There's lots of other stuff, but it's the premise is wonderful. The main theme follows throughout the whole of the trilogies, because about 3 or 4 trilogies. It goes all the way through. And it's all about sky pirates. It's like you've got the last sky pirate, you've got different stuff that happens, sort of thing. So it's always about the sky pirates, which is wonderful. And I don't know what else to say. The artwork's beautiful, the setting's beautiful. It's really well put together. I would love to see it as a film one day. I'm thinking highly well done animated film.
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, you can't leave all of Riddle's amazing artwork just there.
No, you
I mean, bringing
couldn't.
it to life even more would make it an absolutely fabulous film.
Like if they took on the basis of there's a recent film done which is it's the kid that plays with the it's a Japanese style film, and it's the pick. It's like the pick. It's not like a pick of destiny. But there's a pick to it, and it's all made out of stop motion animation.
All right. Oh wait, do you mean Isle of Dogs?
No, not Isle of Dogs. This is a bit older than the Isle of Dogs. Um, stop motion animation. Movie. Let's have a look at this quickly. Because it's going to be here. Ah, yeah. Kubo and the Two Strings.
Oh, I absolutely love that
Yes.
film.
It's
so good.
It's so good. And that's something,
Such a great film.
something like that would be something I'd love to see done for this. Like having all these characters made up and have them moving around step by step could be actually really cool. Or
I think it would be even cooler if it was hand-drawn animation like Chris Riddle's style.
Oh god, that would take years though. Like you're talking for one film, it'd probably like 3-4 years to get that all drawn out.
But it would be so worth it though. Could you imagine how cool it would be?
It'd be like 2 hours just like just drawing down your face. My
So
god.
pretty.
So pretty. What is this madness?
Be
God.
fabulous though.
Oh, it's so
But I
good.
mean, they did manage to do Loving Vincent, which every frame is a painting done in Van Gogh style.
But they're like 3 or 4,000 artists doing each painting.
But if they manage to do that, they should be able to get enough artists on side and enough funding to do this as well.
I don't know, that's quite a tough one to think about, because the issue with that is how do I say this? Is well, Vincent van Gogh is known worldwide. Like you have artists everywhere kind of going, I want to do that. I want to do that.
True.
Whereas something like the Edge Chronicles, it's sold about 3 million copies, which is good, and it's really I mean, I love it to bits, like how it's done. Or what. But I don't know if there'd be enough art. I don't know if there'd be like 4,000 or 5,000 artists who have the skill level of our dear friend.
Yeah.
Chris Riddle. There we go. God, I have terrible memory for names. Please don't trust me. To actually hand draw it out every single scene, basically. So that'd be my only concern, like finding all those artists to do that.
Yeah, that is true. But I'd say they could if they wanted to. I mean, they might even get volunteers, you know?
Yeah, that could be true. Like, it could be very true. I don't know. It's definitely tough, man. But it would be nice to see it. I'll be honest. It would be really nice to see it like that. You know.
It would. In an ideal world.
In an ideal world where I controlled the world and made people do what I wanted to do, it would be absolutely wonderful. But we can't always get what we want. Most of the time we can, though. Most of the time. But yeah. So that's the major premises. Lots of different characters, wacky characters. They're there for different reasons. That they want different things out of it. It's crazy how much detail and stuff there is in there. Okay. First questions. What aspects do you think would make a good film?
Well, for one, action. I mean, come on.
Wait.
You have a knight.
Just
Says in the Middle Ages.
Yeah. We're talking about the greatest knight at the moment.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Shoot.
You
Go.
have not only the future politics and shaping of the world here at play, you also go as far as the Middle East with this. You go to England, you go to France, you go to Germany. You have so much going on, and you have so many characters as well involved, and major characters too.
And it's a very under-talked subject. I mean, the thing is, like, we have Robin Hood, who's very famous. Like, they do movies every couple of years about Robin Hood,
Oh yeah, my favorite has to be the Russell Crowe one.
Oh, it's so good. And we've got a new Braveheart coming out as well. Have you seen? There's a new Braveheart movie being made.
If Mel Gibson isn't in it, woohoo!
But we don't have this knight who was one of the major was a very big influencer, it seemed, on history and what he did.
He was involved in so many things. Yes, he wouldn't have had a direct influence,
Yes.
but he has seen so many things. He has watched so many things, and he has participated in a lot of big events in England's history. The most major probably being the Magna Carta.
Exactly, and he was on the side of the king at the time, and it's
Well, he wasn't on the side of the king. He worked with the barons. He was one of the earls who signed it.
Oh, right. Sorry, yes, sorry, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Ah. Huh. So he worked with the barons against the king.
Yeah, because he was taxing them so much. King John was taxing them so much.
And they're like, nope, screw this. Here you go. Sign this piece of paper. Otherwise, we're going to kill you.
Yeah, because they had to already pay so many taxes to Richard to fund not only his ransom after he'd been captured,
of course,
but to fund him and his entire army, a massive, massive force, going all the way to the Holy Land in order to recapture Jerusalem.
And it's not a small trip, I'll tell you that.
No.
It's quite a while to get there and quite a while to get back.
Yeah, you can't just jump on a plane.
Well, not back then you couldn't, anyway.
No.
So he had his hand, and he was there for a lot of the major conflicts in English history and European history, which would be a great little great view, because even though he wasn't the main player, he observed it all throughout his whole life, and he had this wonderful marriage back at home. It seemed like he's 16 children.
Even though he wasn't home that much, so take what you want from that.
Well, it's the Middle Ages. You have a kid, you say it's yours. Nobody can DNA test it, so you're okay. You're gonna be fine.
The thing is, though, so at the time it's okay for men, but it's not okay for women.
Oh, well, back in the Middle Ages, of course that's the way it is. Back then.
Of course it is.
Of course, men were off fighting and knighting up and wearing armor. They had to have that. They had to relieve themselves somehow. God. Well, what did?
Anyway, we won't get into that.
Anyway, we won't get into that today. Anyway, we may get into another time. There's not much you can change about the past, so I don't know how effective it's going to be. But so those are what you view as some of the best, some of the really good highlighted points to discuss in a movie. Would you say?
They would be the action. You can have some really epic fight scenes, both up close, hand to hand, and on full scale perspective with tactics. You have characters. You have historical plot lines. You have so many settings as well. And all these would translate into a really great film.
Yes, they would.
If done properly. To my very, very high and exacting standards.
So you'll be the director, the writer, the actors, just everything basically.
Everything, and I still wouldn't be happy.
It's not good enough. You're the one who did everything. I know, I'm still not happy enough with it.
Look, that particular shade of red. They would not have had that.
It wasn't feasible at the time because it cost too much to produce it. You see that purple? That purple's expensive.
You can't have a peasant wearing red. What are you thinking?
What are you thinking?
And that's actually true.
I know, yeah. So, okay, so that's really good. That's a really good point. Like, it'd be really nice factual telling of different battles and different battlefields. So for the Edge Chronicle, we're going completely different. This is fantasy as you can get. I mean, you can tell in the 8 books that I've shown you, there's one human figure, and the rest is floating ships, bears, birds, goblins, pirates with masks on. You don't know what's going on there.
So much stuff.
I just think it'd be absolutely just hilarious to watch. Like, you'd just be sitting back and it'd be like all these creatures just popping up out of everywhere. Like, oh, okay.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at that.
Look at this. Look at that. Look at everything. oh, that's going to kill you, because most things are dangerous in the Edge. That's the thing, because like most, it's not a happy tale. I mean, it's like lots of people die, lots of stuff goes on. It's a very, but the thing is, like, it's directed towards the older ages of teenagers and young adults, which I think right now is such a prevalent place to be, because you've got all these kids who read these books and now are adults. And if it came out as a movie, I think a lot of adults would kind of go, "Oh my god, no way! I remember reading that when I was a teenager. Let's go watch that." And they just remember how good it is.
Yeah, definitely. I would so watch it.
Oh man, but yeah, okay. So you've got the artwork in there to see the creatures. So I mean, you just go off the basis of those. Go right. There's the bear. There's the Bandersnatch.
You've got all the characters.
Yep, you've got the characters. You've got more drawings, so you know exactly what they look like. You just gotta animate them. Right?
Yeah.
Animate them and follow the story. It's kind of like you're given a script with all the images, and it's like, here you go, just animate the rest, and then just do some voiceovers.
There you go, you're off.
You're off. You could do like so I was saying, like earlier, was I would do like two a go. So 2 books probably. You could probably amalgamate into one film. So you could do...
I'm not sure, though. I mean, there is so much in each book. And each one does really have its own story that I think you'd have to do each one as a separate film. Well, just for me, anyway.
Well, yeah, I understand. But it's like, The Lord of the Rings had like 500 pages per book. And I think The Edge Chronicles, it's about 200 pages per book. So it's not overly large books. I mean, there's a lot of detail in there. But I think... I don't know, maybe you could do... Well, it's trilogy, so you could do a book and a half each. You could leave it on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And then culminate it on the second film.
Yeah, and if you're recording a literal cliffhanger.
Literally, cliffhanger, over the edge, bam, done.
2 major characters, that's how he works.
But no,
That's how you keep dyslexic ADHD kids reading.
What's going to happen? I don't know. It's going to fall off the cliff. Oh my god, what? Oh wait, where's the last page? No!
Wait, Percy and Nick are going to get together. I ship that gay relationship. Woohoo!
But yeah, then for me, also the writing and where it takes place is such a wonderful land and a wonderful idea behind it, sort of thing. It's totally.
Oh, it really
unique.
is. Yeah.
It's totally unique, and it's totally in its own right, its own world. You know, like it's like Terry Pratchett's stories.
Totally unique.
The Discworlds, yeah, totally unique. Like it's just the Discworlds. Yeah, I know what that is. Yeah, it's a world on elephants on a turtle floating in space.
Yep.
The Edge Chronicles.
Heard about that loads of times.
Yeah, the Edge Chronicles. There's an edge. There's some clouds. There's a floating city, and other stuff in between. Bam! I know what that is. Easy. But no, like it's got such a unique tale to it. I think a lot of people would find it very fun to watch, especially nowadays. You know, I think it would take off. It could be a wonderful Netflix series. You know, every book.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it'd be so good.
That would be so cool.
So much fun.
Like, have you seen Disenchanted?
Yes, I've been watching Disenchanted. I
love that. But if they did it like that, if they had that animation in there. But in Chris Riddle's, drawing style.
The only issue with Disenchanted's drawing style, it goes 2 to 3D, and it goes 3D in some really bad places, as I've seen in a couple of episodes. It like transfers.
Oh yeah, but I'm just saying, like, having it animated, but sort of running it like Disenchanted.
I don't know. I think I would go for a higher production value than Disenchanted myself if I was to do it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, it's just for the characters themselves. Like, you look at all the characters behind me in the books. There's such detail to them, sort of thing. You would have to spend so much money animating them.
True.
But okay, well, de-escalating this situation where we rip each other's heads off about which one's better. What might not work well changing from book to film?
Ooh, I suppose getting the entire life of William Marshall, who did so many things, and showing each aspect equally and giving a good rounded perspective of his life in just simply 2 hours,
It would be very difficult because
2.5
he's had such a big life, yeah.
He has done so much.
That's always an issue with someone who's done so much in life, and so many pivotal points where they've been engaged in different things, and like you'd have to kind of go, yeah, we have to cut those things out because we just haven't got enough time.
Yeah. The worst thing they could do is that you get someone in it who really does not care about accuracy, and you've got
Ooh.
knights who are just at the beginning of the ideas of chivalry and knights as we see them in our heads, which is actually a Victorian perspective.
Yep.
Having them, who are meant to be in chainmail, go around in plate armor, which doesn't come in till another 100 years. That would have me just out.
So there was no existing plate mail during his lifetime then.
Plate armor. It's
Plate armor,
when you think of the knight in shining armor, it's that big piece of metal.
Yeah.
But really, at the time, knights were wearing chainmail.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, it'd be chainmail, leather underneath, and you've got a shirkin underneath that to protect you as well.
Yeah, loads and loads of padding. But when you have all this on, you're basically invulnerable when you're on a horse. So knights are pretty much immune unless you came across a crossbow. And crossbows are nasty things.
Unless you got stuck at the War of Agincourt.
Agincourt, mud.
Mud. Falling over, the archers just going, yeah, my knife. There you go, you're dead.
Actually, that's where giving the twos to people comes from.
Yes, it would do, because of the archers sticking their fingers up to show, yep, we can still shoot you and kill you. Because, Jesus.
Yeah, because when the French captured archers, or English soldiers, they would cut off their two bow fingers, which are the two fingers you stick up.
Exactly.
And sticking them up at the enemy was to show we can still fight you and we can still shoot you. You're not winning.
Exactly.
And it still existed today, and I actually learned that at Warwick Castle in England. Amazing place.
I know.
And the guide there said that he showed it to a group of people and they're all doing it, laughing. Then he looked up at the battlements and he saw people above doing it back to them. And they were there, these two groups of people, for about an hour, just giving each other the twos.
That's so good. Oh, that's so funny. But yeah, no, it was and that's a wonderful way to show that being so well armored can be a massive disadvantage sometimes, because if there's something that
weighing you down.
Exactly, there's such a massive weight, because they did, like, wearing armor is, I think it's about 50 to 60 kilos of armor.
Yep.
Goes on.
Very, very heavy.
So if you're stuck in something like the mud, you fall over. I mean, like, I think most of them drowned, or knights would stumble over them, push them down to the mud. Those knights would fall on top of them. And yeah, just drowning. And the archers were there, like, wearing barely anything. Then they're just going in, stabbing them, just going, yep, easy peasy lemon squeezy, no problem.
Indeed.
Because the thing was, like, even archers, I mean, they were shooting hard because they were war bows and they were bloody strong.
Very heavy poundage, yes. And the longbow is very much an English weapon.
No, it's not.
It's
not English.
Well,
it is Welsh. Thank you very much.
When I say English, it has become...
No. It's still the Welsh longbow. The English stole the Welsh longbow and made it to the English longbow. It's still a Welsh longbow.
What I'm trying to say is that with Agincourt and all these battles, it has become an emblem of this idea and this period, and linked with England through this.
Still
that's what I'm trying to say.
Still the Welsh longbow. That's what I say.
I'm not debating that. I agree. Yes.
But one of the issues with the longbow, even if you got a shot, I mean, for to hit a knight, you're not going to do that much damage, because the thing is, the armor it just bounces off. Like, unless you get the eye slits and you get in an open, exposed place. It's more so the horses which they're on and the other soldiers around them which aren't wearing as much cladding, because again, it's bloody expensive getting a full plate armor on you, sort of thing. It's not cheap.
Knights were like having a Ferrari at the time. It's that sort of money you are spending for a king. And the king would have, if you think about it, like 100 knights in just his mezzanine, which is his closest circle.
Yeah.
He'd have even more underneath those and around those. It is incredible the amount of money these people had. absolutely incredible.
Well, the thing was at the time is all the peasants, all their money just went to the
Of course,
lords
taxes
and went to the kings. Yeah, of
went to the
course.
lords and went to the king.
Exactly, and the lords would have their knights, and the king would have his knights, and the king would call up the lords and go, right, get your knights and get your foot soldiers out. We're going to war. And most of the foot
Yep.
soldiers would just be peasants or low people with a few spears or a few bits and pieces that they had from other wars and survived. And right, lads, we're off to war again. Yep, the lords are fighting. God damn.
Yep.
We just want to be at home.
Yeah. So my point is something that might not translate well in the film is if it's done inaccurately
Yeah.
and if they take out large parts of very important pieces about William Marshall's life as well,
But that's
and they lose a lot of context.
and that's a different thing, because if you're trying to go over his whole life and all the things that have happened.
Yeah, but I mean something really major, like missing out the Magna Carta.
Oh,
You know?
I don't think they'll miss out that, because that's such a major symbol, basically.
Oh, you'd be surprised though at what some people can do when they make films.
This is true. This is very true.
Hollywood indeed.
Hollywood indeed. Right, my turn then. The Edge Chronicles. What do I worry about if translated to a movie? They don't get the right tone would be one of the first things, because it's got a very good sense of humour and a very good sense of self. The books and how they're portrayed. I'd feel like if you try to make it like a blockbuster animation film, you could lose that quite easily, because you could either go too childish or too adulty, I guess, because it's the right balance between it, sort of thing, because it's quite dark themes and quite like death and all these poisons and sad stuff going on, but it's just got its own sense of humor to it. It's just not blasé. It's just its own unique way of doing things, and that's what I feel like you would have to get a very good director in to, and very good script writers to look at it and kind of go and keep the soul of it alive, because it's a fantasy, like they did a great job with the Discworld, and so we had
the Hogfather and the
Hog-
Color of Magic.
Yes, they were well
they're
done.
funny.
But the thing is, they weren't done for a high value amount. They were just done as they were, and they worked, because that was sort of the Discworld. It was grimy, it was dirty, it wasn't high scale, it wasn't big fantasy. It was kind of real life, medieval. Kind of everything's just a bit crap, really. I mean, like, there's nothing that good here.
But still, it's brilliant, and it looks really good as well. It still looks good.
Oh, of course, but they captured the feeling of it. It's not a high class place. It's not a big fantasy realm where all these people go down lovely roads. There's crap being flung out the street. There's there's people being drunkards and being kicked out of places.
There's Mr. Dibbler with his sausage in a bun.
And there's the tourist coming in with all his money and starts riots in the whole town and ends up blowing the pub up. But
starts the insurance policy, which leads to insurance fraud.
Yeah. And also there's I guess one of my other fears would be if is getting the artwork down right and get that correct and how you translate it. 'Cause you could go real action like the Labyrinth and like a couple of other films. You could go that way, but I'd much rather it be animated, and to a high scale animation would be so much better for
me too. Yeah.
So
I'd much prefer. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying, those are my two big worries for the Edge Chronicles series, if they were to be turned to film, sort of thing, of how they would do that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what did you enjoy most about the book?
The fact that they dealt with stuff in a real way, in the sense of it's a fantasy story, but they talk about real stuff, like never know your father, never knowing, like seeing people being killed in front of you when you're a kid, and like emotionally heavy stuff, but not writing it in an emotionally heavy way. It's just like it sort of just happens, and you just deal. So again, it's the flow. It's the characters are a big part for me in the Edge Chronicles, because the characters are so unique and so entertaining to read and to see, because it's the exact. Because all the drawings, everything you see, is the exact way that you would see them in your imagination, I think, because of how to describe them and how they talk about them, sort of thing. You see them going, yeah, that looks pretty damn cool. I like that.
It's amazing that Chris Riddle managed to do that.
I know.
So I remember seeing them reading them when I was younger, and just going, "This is actually how I saw them in my head. This is amazing."
And that is so difficult to do. Like so difficult to do for for stories in general. Like it's.
I've never seen it done before. Being honest, you know.
I've seen it been done in a couple of books. I guess one of them would have been. I can't remember the name, but it's not too important. Next question. Who would you like to see acting in the greatest films?
I love my actors. And I had to say, basically, just get in everybody who acted in The Hollow Crown. Get the whole production team. Get everybody who did The Hollow Crown to do this film. Because The Hollow Crowns, if you have never seen them, watch them.
Yeah.
They are absolutely incredible.
I will make sure to do that.
So, huh?
I'll make sure to do that. I still haven't watched The Hollow Crown yet.
Watch them, bro. They're so good. Because you have star-studded cast. I'm talking Jeremy Irons.
Yeah.
Hugh Bonneville.
Yeah.
Poor man's name, I can't remember. He's absolutely amazing. Oh, plays Loki in the Marvel films.
I think I know who you mean.
Is it begins at T? I think T.
Oh, it's tea time. I know that guy. He's a good guy.
No.
It's cool.
T.
I'd love a cup of tea. Thanks.
Half. No. What is his name?
You can just look it up.
True. I can just look it up.
The wonderful power of the internet.
Indeed. Tom Hiddleston. I just remembered.
Yes.
You have Tom Hiddleston. You have Hugh Bonneville.
Yeah.
You have Tom Hiddleston, Hugh Bonneville, Jeremy Irons.
Yeah.
The list goes on and on and on and on. They're incredibly well made. Now, of course, these are all the Shakespeare plays.
Yeah.
And they're the Shakespeare histories in particular. But they are fabulous. And I'd love to see the people who did that and the actors in that act the film. I particularly want to see Tom Hiddleston playing William Marshall.
Nice. That'd be so good.
And I want Zac Efron to be completely banned from script and can't even get 10 miles near the place.
Oh, God. For me...
A few other people banned as well. Kristen Stewart. Sorry, no. Kristen Stewart, one of them. I mean, come on now. Yeah. She's just has a blank face. I mean, sorry for any people who are fans, but I'm sorry, Kristen Stewart and Zac Efron, but I'm just not a big fan.
Yeah. No, I can see that. Who?
Oh yes, and I totally want Patrick Stewart and Gandalf. Yes. Name Gandalf.
Oh Jesus!
He's so good. His name. Patrick Stewart and.
I know who that is. Easy.
Who?
It is. Shh. I know who it is.
I know his name. I say it all the time.
It is. Ian McKellen.
It's Ian McKellen.
And
he's a brilliant Shakespearean actor.
Ian McKellen. It's
Ian McKellen.
Oh, it's Ian McKellen.
Ian McKellen. The glorious Sir Ian McKellen.
Yes.
And Patrick Stewart. I want them in it. I mean, oh my God, if you haven't seen Patrick Stewart's monologue when he plays John O'Gaunt in The Hollow Crown, watch it. It is one of the best examples of acting I have ever seen. And also look, Ian McKellen's monologue from Cornelius about human rights. It is incredible too.
Yes,
I've
seen that before.
Acting masterclasses. I'd love Judi Dench in there as well.
For me, it would be the character who played the dad in Aragon. You know who I'm talking about.
Oh,
I can't remember his name.
neither can I. No, do you mean Garrow when you say the character?
I believe
Or
so.
do you mean Brom, who's played by Jeremy Irons?
I mean, yeah, Brom. Yeah, Brom, of course I do, yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy Irons. So you want Jeremy Irons as well. We all want Jeremy Irons.
I want Jeremy Irons to voice the captain, which is Trigg's dad.
Yeah.
I would want...
He'd make such a good captain.
I would want the evil blood... Oh, what's his name? The evil character in the Darkwoods, which is chasing after Trigg the entire time. You know who I want for that. Go on.
Oh, damn.
No?
No, who?
Oh, well, who played Smaug?
Benedict Cumberbatch. Oh yeah, we have to get Benedict Cumberbatch on set.
He would be so good voicing over that character.
Oh, he would. He would be so good. Or just get David Attenborough to do the monologue or in the intros and the end, the voiceovers.
I don't know. No, I think I'd have the character who voiced Death in the Discworlds to do it.
Yeah, that would be cool.
So good. Oh, it'd be so fun to watch.
Death is just a great character in the Discworld. Oh my god, he's hilarious.
He's so human. It's incredible. Like,
yeah.
Love them 60s, mate. And I don't know who I would have voicing the other characters myself, because they're such unique characters. It'd be probably some quite, I don't know. I'm trying to think of another bad guy to play the vice captain, and then you've got the bear doesn't really talk, so that's fine. And good day, if you're joining us, we're talking about books and what we'd love to see them as films. But no, and yeah, no, that'd be incredible. And I think so Christopher Eccleston? No, Jeremy Irons. That's who. Oh, hello. I was wondering where you went. You left me all alone. Hello? Am I being left all alone? Oh no, there we go. Hello. Hello?
Hello, we had a few technical issues.
It's fine, we're still alive, so we're all good. Okay, so Jeremy Irons is our father captain figure.
Mm-hmm.
Who I don't know who I do doing Twig though. Twig's
Ooh. That would be a tricky one to cast.
It would be a tricky one to cast. But anyway, but I think we've got enough characters there anyway. So last question